Hey everybody, welcome back to Electric Cafe. This is Tim Humphrey. Today's video is about Psychedelic Furs. Why am my electronic channel doing a video on Psychedelic Furs? It's a good question. I guess they have a keyboard in there, so does that make them electronic music? But somehow they're tied into like new wave, more so than punk or even like alternative music. I guess they're sort of tied into new wave. So since I've been doing some new wave, I thought I'd do Psychedelic Furs. My oldest sister was really into Psychedelic Furs really early on. I can remember hearing, I Love My Way when that came out in 82 slash maybe 80, probably 82, but I think it probably hit charts in early 83. I love that song. Such a cool video. Richard Butler is so cool. So it has such stage presence, and the moves he does on stage, and all his hand movements, and it is so cool. It has such like I think like the quintessential post-punk band for me. They came right out of punk music but he still had that kind of aggressive, UK post-punk, attitude, and it really worked well, and kind of tied into. It really was just alternative music, but they get kind of lumped into new wave, and for a good 7 to 10 years, they had one of the strongest runs of a band. Not necessarily chart, but as far as the quality of their music, and in a lot of respects, they're very. I think their influence is a little bit underappreciated and a little bit underrated. I think of bands like Jesus and the Mary Chain. That kind of those kind of bands that sort of. I wouldn't say they were goth, and they're certainly not industrial, but they're sort of alternative rock. Like the Psychedelic Furs was probably the first ones to carry on through after post-punk and still release quality stuff and also have success through the 80s. Their first album, Talk Talk, 1981. Pretty in Pink, one of their best known early songs. Of course, later was remade for the Pretty in Pink soundtrack, and that was kind of at the height of their success in like 80s, 85, 86, 87. Mr. Jones, great track. Dumb Waiters, She Is Mine. It Goes On. All of This and Nothing. Very solid debut album. And then going into their, I always forget which one was their first album. This might actually be their first album. I always forget which one's their first album. Their self-titled record, which I have 2 copies of. Some records you see in the bin for like $7, $5, and you're just like, oh, I'll take another one because the other one's been played so much. I've had these records for a long time. India. Sister Europe is probably one of their kind of cult songs, Sister Europe, and that's kind of their not popular song, but a lot of hardcore fans really like that song a lot. Also, Flowers is a really good song. Fall. Imitation of Christ and Sisters of Europe are both the kind of underrated songs that fans of the band that really like. Moving on, so then you have Forever Now. This is kind of when they embrace the keyboard a little bit more, and this one has Love My Way on it. Sleep Come Down is really good. President Gas, that song. Talk about a great song for these days. President Gas. Such a great track. That's such a strong track. That really kind of encapsulates their punk sound early on. That's probably one of their last sort of punky songs. Forever Now, Goodbye, really strong album. Have 2 copies of that too, and yeah, it's a great album. And then probably they're arguably probably their best album. Ghost in You, probably my top 3 of their songs. Here Come the Cowboys, also Heaven. Heaven was such a great video, wasn't it? Actually, a lot of their videos were cool. Love My Way was really cool, just have them playing. You know, Heaven had the water running down and him singing Heaven and stuff. Just Until She Comes was a cool video. They just had like the clock and he was sort of standing on it. Ghost in You, just singing in the mirror was really cool. The videos on that album got a little out of control. Trying to be a little too popular, but their videos were very, very simple and really about the music. And Richard Butler, kind of his look, kind of carried him through the songs in a really cool way. Like you wanted to be Richard Butler. Look at that snarl, look at that attitude. So cool. And he's so unique looking too. You know, it's just different. It almost looks like Michael Jackson right there. Like a white Michael Jackson. But, you know, he's a very thin guy. Very thin. But he has such a cool look. I mean, even in the more popular album, he dressed super cool. All black, leather, you know, kind of androgynous look. You know, I mean, he looked like a rock star. That dude was a rock star. High Wire Days. Such a great track. Man, this album's so good. This album's so good. Had to get on CD too, eventually. But it's such a good album. And then you come to Midnight to Midnight, which was, you know, which had their biggest song, Heartbreak Beat, was their, I think at the time, Love My Way and Ghost in You, I think hit the top 40, or Ghost in You was just outside the top 40. I think Pretty Peak just was at the top 40, and then Heartbreak Beat went in the top 20. So the pressure building from the last album with Ghost in You and High Wire Days and the success of that and Heaven really led to that, and them kind of maybe trying a little too hard to make a song, to make a hit. And then when Heartbreak Beat was probably made, they made Shock. And I like Shock a lot. It's grown on me over the years. I like it, but I can't fault fans that look at it and you look at the video too and you're like, yeah, they were trying a little too hard to make another hit. And that's okay. Angels Don't Cry is one of their most underrated songs, I think. And then also another one here, Midnight to Midnight, is really good. Shadow in My Heart is really good as well. Yeah, it's surprisingly, it's still a really solid album, and this is kind of like considered, you know, kind of the death of Psychedelic Furs in a lot of way. I don't have the album after this. I think it was All This Money Wants, or All the Money, or something like that. And I think it was, or it was a Book of Days. Actually, I don't have Book of Days. That was 89. All This and Nothing was the, I think was the greatest hits, right? This is also the greatest hits as well that I got sometime probably, you know, the year that came out, probably like 1990 or something like that. This sort of has all the singles on it, but surprisingly, Shock's not on here. So even they knew at the time, like, and I've heard Richard Butler say in a video that he doesn't like Shock, but they've kind of brought it back around to their live shows. They've done a good job about. They have just enough material to fit like an hour to hour and a half perfectly, and nobody be bored and everybody be happy. They have just enough material. When I've talked about this before. Once you get past like 15 years worth of music, you know, 6 or 7 albums, there's too much music, too much good music to be fit in one concert. Psychedelic Furs perfectly fits. I mean, this is their greatest hits, and it goes Sisters of Europe, Mr. Jones, Dumb Waiters, Pretty Pink, Love My Way, President Gas, Here Comes the Cowboys, Heaven, Heartbeat, which is another really good one, Ghost in You, then Heartbreak Beat, Angels Don't Cry, All the Money She Wants, Sometimes, Until She Comes, There's a World Outside, Only You and I. So 17 songs, perfect example. You could just do that, and probably everybody would be happy. And except some people might think want to hear Imitation of Christ is again an early one that people love. But nobody would be unhappy if they play that live. And then they made a really remarkable comeback with this album, and I think this, especially in the time this album got lost. You're talking about 1991, so grunge is getting big. Alternative music doesn't know what to do, right? But this kind of brought back a little bit of the punk attitude. Don't Be a Girl. That's very punky, that song. In My Head is one of my favorites by them. Definitely top 5. It sounds like a second version of Heaven. If you really like Heaven and know Psychedelic Furs, listen to In My Head. You will really like that track. It is pure joy. It's hard to see these. Sometimes it's a really good song on here. The World Outside. This is a really strong album. The Get a Room is a really good slow song. This is a really underrated album. I wrote a review on this online a couple of years ago, and I just think that it's highly underrated. Of course, Richard Butler then became, right after that album, of course, Until She Comes is the single off that album. And then he went into I Spit Love and I used to have that single, Am I Wrong, I think the song was. That was a good song. From Love Spit Love, and I think that album was pretty good, but I haven't heard anything, and in fact I didn't hear any the last one or two Psychedelic Furs album that came out recently, or last like 5-7 years. I think there was one even like maybe 2 years ago. But yeah, that's my experience with Psychedelic Furs, and I think they're highly underrated. Every album has, I probably like 7 of every 10 songs on all, 6-7 albums that I have, or 6-7 albums that I have. I just don't have, I don't have Book of Days. But just a remarkable career they had, coming out of the post-punk. There's just not that many bands that survived and didn't go full keyboard. Like you think of new Duran Duran, and maybe Tears for Fears might be sort of new wave and survived, and with their sound, the amazing talent musicians. But this is more closer to what punk may have sort of evolved out of and became. And I don't think anybody did it as well as Psychedelic Furs. Richard Butler is a very talented musician. That's definitely on my bucket list to go see Psychedelic Furs. I've never seen them live. I'd like to. They still do tour, and that would definitely be a tour that I'd like to see, because again, they can fit most of their great material, and you won't feel like they're missing any songs for the most part in an hour and a half show, and that would be a good time. So thanks for checking out Electronic Cafe today and the episode on Psychedelic Furs. Curious, as always, what's your top 3 favorite Psychedelic Furs album and songs, and what's your favorite Psychedelic Furs album? Just write that down below. I'm curious to know what's your favorite 3 songs. If I had to say my top 3 favorite songs, probably Love My Way, Ghosting You, and In My Head. Although Angels Don't Cry is really close, and Heaven's really good too. Yeah, Until She Comes is really good too. Yeah, that's my top 3, top 5. Definitely Love My Way and Ghosting You. Those have to be in my top 3. But I would have to say In My Head is a highly underrated song, and deserves a lot more attention. It wasn't even a single, but it just, so catchy. In My Head. Check it out. All right. Thanks a lot for checking out today, Electronic Cafe. Have a good day.